For my money, this is the best opening moment in video games. I realize nostalgia probably colors that opinion, but even as an adult, I see something poignantly austere in the classic silent film storytelling, the narrative expressed at first through pose, motion, and music. Then, the last words of a fallen father, a legacy entrusted to a son, a life's work left unfulfilled. The beginning of Ninja Gaiden visits tropes and themes as old as Greek tragedy and Oedipus. The challenge to a son to uncover a parent's hidden and private life and find rage and violence waiting on the other side. So many video games are about family, if even in the most seemingly cursory ways: overshadowed siblings teaming up or turning rival, children rescuing parents, brothers fighting in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, mothers orchestrating the tide of battle, single women starting new families, and sisters exploring wonderful worlds. I've never been a parent, only a child. I've never known what it's like to give, only to take, or what it's like to provide. I only know how to receive. To be a child is to be the sum of so many parts, the product of many creators, the genetic makeup of two families before you that came together and became something new in you, the product of your environment also, and your friendships and your education, and the most mysterious of teachers, your own essential nature. And of course, in all this, the influence of your parents, or those who raised you. Some parents are kind and good. Others are not. Some bumble and fumble, some abuse and exploit, some lift up and protect. Some parents learn to be better later in life, and some don't survive to see their legacies fully realized. We follow in our parents' footsteps, or we rebel against them. Sometimes we're the Belmonts, embracing a family legacy, taking up the mantle of each generation proudly. Or sometimes we're Alucard, trying to break the chain of dysfunction at great cost and loss to ourselves. Or we can be the Finch family, seemingly doomed to fail again and again in a cycle of tragedy. When I was a child, I thought I understood my parents. I thought I knew them. They were my world. I didn't understand that they were people outside of me, and that they'd had lives before me. I didn't understand that my father had been to war, or that my mother had suffered grievous losses. Now that I'm older, and my parents are old, so much is different. The love is still there, and we still know one another, but the context has changed. I see more of who they are now. And somehow, in no longer relying on them, there's a strange lessening that's taken place inside of me. The experiences of our lives make much about us unrecognizable to one another. Yet there's also so much of what they were, and what they are, and what I am, that echoes inside my mind like a whispering ghost from my childhood. And I don't know what to make of it. It's hard for me to face the changes that have happened when I consider those I love most. One of the things I like about Red Dead Redemption is how softly it treads on the relationship between John and Jack. How in the end, John is quite willing to do more than die for his child. He's willing to do things he hates for the sake of him, to go back on a life he's tried so hard to leave behind. And that's perhaps an even more terrible calling of parenthood. The fact that you must embrace what you despise in order to protect or provide for that which you love. And my parents did things like that for me. They gave up what they wanted for my sake again and again. They stepped between me and danger. Who we become is largely defined by our responses to the people who raise us. Sometimes we surpass our parents. Sometimes we improve on their poor example. Sometimes we mirror their failures. Games continue to explore the themes of parenthood in ways that challenge our assumptions, that draw deeper on the tenuous relationships between generations. This is, to an extent, fundamental to their nature. Games reflect reality even in their construction. What is a sequel but a child of many parents, containing in itself new ideas of each creator, the familiar DNA from its predecessors, and also its strange and undefinable spark of unique inspiration? Some scientists think we only have to go back a couple of thousand years to find our most recent common ancestor, a human being that we're all related to, every person on Earth. It's much the same for the young medium of games. Every sequel is a sequel to every game that came before it, not just every game in a series. Just like us, video games are the sum of so many parts. You can see so much of what came before within each and every one of them. Heritage has become as much as mathematics, the building block on which games are constructed. Now, as they graduate from a technical curiosity into a medium, video games are defined by their roles as the children of art that came before them. The family tree for video games isn't a branch so much as a tumbleweed of interconnected creators and influences. And like the people who make them, games reflect a near obsession with origins, legacies, and perhaps more than anything, the quest for near immortality that is family, with all its joys and tragedies. The sins and kindnesses of our fathers and mothers are, to children, like shadows that deepen as the sun of their lifetime sets. As we and they grow older, the veil between us begins to break, and we begin to perceive much of what they shielded us from, and much of what they exposed us to. We see that they were people in their own right, living out their own dreams and their own atonement. And we come to understand that they can and will die, and so will we. For even as we engender new life against an uncertain tomorrow, so too every day, we find ourselves a moment closer to the inexorable approach of our own final breath. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode: death. If there's anything video games have to teach us, it's about lost lives, inevitable endings, and the constant presence of our own mortality. It is, if you'll permit me a little levity, only a hop, blip, and a jump away.